if we are going to have the Warframe versus Destiny 2 discussion, I need to know where we're starting. Are we starting with, like, difficulty, activities, expansions, companies? Like, what are we starting with? Because there's some easy ones we can bang out, right? Like, clan system in Warframe clears clan system in Destiny 2 by 8 million miles. You've got... Honestly, I can't even lie. There's a lot of things in Warframe that really clear Destiny 2. They're, like, individual housing, clan systems plus clan housing, actual good reasons to be in a clan, fashion, Warframe, and, like, Destiny's fashion isn't even, like, terrible or anything like that. You have a lot of options when it comes to fashion. You got your emblems, you got your sparrows, you got your ships, you have any shader that you can put on any of them, you have transmat effects, you have, like, shiny weapon. Like, there's actually, like, customization in Destiny is good. But Warframes is like, I don't know if I've ever seen a game that has customization as good as Warframe. I mean, the fashion is beyond peak. It's nuts. It's unreal. Wild Zeph, thanks so much for the tier 1 sub for 6 months in advance, by the way. I appreciate that so much. Thank you, thank you. Is Warframe newbie friendly? Warframe at the current moment is way more newbie friendly than which is interesting because this is actually what kind of started to get me in trouble a lot with the Warframe community when I first started playing Warframe, is I was talking about how good the new player experience is. And people got really, really mad at me because they were like, oh, you have no idea what you're talking about. You haven't had an actual new player experience. You're a streamer, so you got gifted everything, so you don't know what it's actually like to be a new player. And while that does have some merits to it, right? Like, for example, like getting gifted boosters definitely changes things up. Getting gifted slots changes things dramatically. Getting advice from people in the chat changes things dramatically. Like, there's obviously a lot of ways. Theoretically, getting gifted frames and weapons would also change things dramatically, but I refuse to use any of those. Like, I just insta-sold them. So, I feel like that one doesn't really... That one doesn't count, because I didn't utilize that at all. But, like, I feel like I'm smart enough of a gamer and smart enough of a person to be able to, like, look at all of the bonuses and benefits I had being a streamer and theorize what the experience looks like if I don't have all of those bonuses and benefits. Furthermore, there were, like, thousands of people that started Warframe at the same time as I did because they came over with me from Destiny 2. And they had no streamer benefits. They had no one gifting them anything. They had no one guiding them anything. And they all told me, yeah, dude, new player experience is 8,000 times better than Destiny's. It's pretty decent. I've also learned that, like, Warframe continuously iterates on the new player experience to make it better and better and better. Like, recently, they literally... This is kind of like... I don't know how new player experience this is. This is maybe more so of, like, a new to mid-player experience, but... Something like they're changing the new war so that you don't have to go and grind out a necromech first. You can get like a loner necromech before you do the new war. So they're like... They also added additional Warframe... What the... What just... That was weird. They also just added additional Warframe slots and weapon slots. So that you have like a little bit more leeway as a free-to-play player, a brand new player, free-to-play player, to get a couple extra frames before you have to start either buying plat or selling things in the market. And like, because when I was going through the new player experience, I would be running through and I'd be like, this new player experience is pretty darn good. And people were like, well, no, you had everything explained to you by the chat. And I was just sitting there thinking like, well, honestly, not really. The game does a really, really, really good job of like telling you all the systems and what everything does. I would say the thing that confused me the most and was the most complex is probably the mod system. However, there's literally like I forget what the menu is called, but if you're in the mod page, there's something you can click on while you're in the mod page in Warframe, and it literally gives you like a 7-page PowerPoint presentation that explains every single thing about mods to you. In game. Like, it's in the game. It's not like you don't have to go to like a third-party website or a third-party page to go and figure that stuff out. It's literally in game on the mod page. And furthermore, if you do want extra info on things, the community managed wiki for Warframe, the Warframe Wikipedia, is incredible. And DE just recently announced that they're going to have an officially supported Wikipedia. Like a Digital Extremes Warframe official Wikipedia. So it's like, when I was going through, people would literally be like, oh, you have no idea what the real new player experience is. You didn't have to deal with any of the, you didn't have to deal with any of, like, the MR gates on main story quests because people gifted you weapons so you could get your MR rank and you never had to worry about that. And I was like, I was sitting there and I was like, first of all, I didn't use any weapons or frames that were gifted to me. Second of all, what are you talking about? Like, MR requirements on main story quests? What do you mean? And then people in my chat were like, dude, those were removed, like, years ago. What are you talking about? And then to all of the people that were telling me that I was wrong and the new player experience is actually bad and I have no idea what I'm talking about, I would ask them, Cruzan, thank you so much for the 5 gifted subs, dude. Appreciate you a lot. Thank you, thank you. I would ask them, I was like, wait a minute. When was the last time you played the new player experience? And they would be like, oh, 3 years ago? And I was like, so you're judging the modern day new player experience based on your new player experience from 3 years ago? Despite DE making loads of changes to the new player experience? Like, what? That doesn't make any sense. So yeah, new player experience, Warframe wins. Customization, Warframe wins. Clan systems, Warframe wins. Grind factor, I feel like both games do pretty well. Like, Warframe has grind factor. I really like the way Warframe does grind, because the way Warframe does grind is, like, 95% of the grind is optional. Like, Warframe is a grind game, but it's only as grindy as you want it to be. Like, if you're the type of person who doesn't like grinding, and you just want to get, like, 5 really good weapons and 5 frames that you really like, then you can just do that and call it a day. Like, you're not required to get any of the other stuff. But if you do want to get all of the other stuff, you absolutely can. And it does a really good job of, like, giving you a lot of variety when it comes to obtaining all of that stuff. Now, the number one area where Destiny beats the bricks off of Warframe, in my opinion, is endgame. The fact that Destiny has things like contest mode content, contest mode dungeons, contest mode raids, raids in general, dungeons in general, solo flawless dungeons, and it has actual tangible in-game rewards and good incentives for doing these things, Warframe honestly doesn't really have anything like that. Warframe's endgame is getting more powerful for the sake of getting more powerful, which for some players is fine. For me though, I'm a much bigger fan of getting more powerful so that I can beat harder things. For some people, getting more powerful for the sake of getting more powerful, that's perfectly fine for them. And more power to those players, right? Like, for example, like some people in Warframe, they'll do EDA and weekly Archon hunts to get 5 Taus and put them on their frame so that their frame is literally statistically as good as it can possibly be. And again, more power to those players, right? But like for me, that gameplay loop doesn't resonate with me quite as much because I'm much more of a, okay, I'm getting more powerful, that's great, but what am I doing with this extra power that I couldn't do before? And if the answer is nothing, then I struggle to want to invest time into getting more powerful, right? Because, like, and you might say, like, oh, well, you can do, like, level cap. What do people always do? What's the name of the activity? It's one of the Void, or one of the Zeraman activities, I think, right? It's level cap, if someone says the word. Cascade, thank you. Level cap cascade. Like, that's the argument I always hear when I always used to talk about this when I was playing Warframe, like, every day. I was like, because I was getting to the point where I was like, people were telling me that I needed to keep doing my weeklies to get my shards, to make my builds better. And I was like, why? And they were like, so your Warframe's stronger. And I was like, okay, but I can already beat any Steel Path mission in the entire game. I can already do EDA. Like, why do I need to continue to get stronger? And then people would be like, well, because, I don't know, what if you want to do, like, level cap cascade? And the first question I would always ask, I would be like, oh, well, is there a good reason to do level cap cascade? I was like, what's like the unique reward for doing level cap cascade? And I was told, like, basically, like, there's not really. You're just doing it for the sake of doing it. And again, if that floats your boat, more power to you. Just for me personally, right? These are my subjective opinions, right? And so what the result of that was is I own every single obtainable gun in Warframe, and I own every single obtainable thing in Warframe right now, with exception to login weapons. It's the only thing I don't own. I have everything. Which, for me, that was the main, like, appeal of the game to me. Was, like, the completionist aspect. Getting everything. And so now that I have everything, I don't really have a lot of reasons to continue to play. Because a lot of the reasons that Warframe encourages people to continue to play is through weekly stuff, which rewards things like Archon shards, which reward incremental bonuses to your frame. But again, the issue I run into is, well, like, why do I care about these? And I really wish there was something like a raid in Warframe, which I know Warframe used to have raids. I really wish there was something like a raid in Warframe that gives unique rewards that are only accessible from that activity, that are difficult enough that it actually requires you to have a very, very powerful Warframe that does have Archon shards. And then as a player, I'd be like much more into grinding my weeklies and getting my Taus and doing my Tau forges and all that good stuff, and like making my Warframe as peak as they could be in terms of power. Ares, Jack, Jay Bodine, and Ragnar, thank you all so much for the subs. Anyone who wants in on the next Grandmaster Nightfall run, go ahead and enter in the chat, !ticket. Good luck. But again, like, that's honestly like my one, I wouldn't even call it an issue with Warframe, because honestly, I wouldn't even say it's like an objectively bad thing about Warframe. It's just not something that Warframe prioritizes, and I don't think that's inherently a bad thing. But like, that's the one area for me that Warframe falls short of when compared to Destiny. And again, I cannot make this more clear. I think they are both incredible games. I think they are two of the best games ever made in the entire world. At least for me. Someone who loves looter shooters, someone who loves like that fantasy game genre. Warframe and Destiny are unreal. They've both been around for 10 years. They have a mind-blowing amount of content to play. Like, they are both incredible. They are immaculate video games. Like, when people would always say, Mac, Destiny or Warframe, which one, if you had to play Destiny or Warframe, if you had to only pick one, which one? And I'm like, and my answer would always be, I'm not answering that because I live in a world where I get to play both. I don't want to pick one. I want to play both of them. I want to play Destiny and get my Guardian powerful, do all the day one content, do all the new story stuff. And I also want to play Warframe and fashion out my frames and get ready for something like Tech Rod Encore and grind out all the new weapons whenever they come out and grind out any new frames when they come out. I love both of the games. They have so many unique aspects to them that make them so special. Like, they operate so differently. I know a lot of people kind of compare them as if they're not so different, just because they're both in, like, the looter-shooter genre. But, like, Warframe is very different than Destiny, and Destiny is very different than Warframe. In good ways. They're comparable in a lot of ways. But they're so different in a lot of ways. Atem and Gorgonzola, let me get your Bungie IDs. Let's rock and roll. Abyss, thank you so much for the Prime sub. Oh, another area where I really love Warframe is Digital Extremes, the developer for Warframe, is amazing. Like, the best way I can describe it is, and this is not a knock on Bungie necessarily, I just think, like, the companies are structured differently. So, like, it's not... I love Bungie, and I'm friends with a lot of people at Bungie, and they do incredible work, and they care a lot, and they love their community. But it feels like a lot of times, like Warframe doesn't, or Digital Extremes rather, doesn't feel, they don't feel like a company. They honestly feel like a bunch of people that, like, went to school together and were hanging out one day and they were like, yo, we should make a video game. It has this, like, oh, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, Digital Extremes has this, like, small town charm to them. In the way that they communicate and interact with the community. Like, for example, right? And again, I'm not trying to rip anyone, but it's just, it's the things I've noticed, right? Like, for example, on every single, it's prime time, right? Where you've got Reb, Megan, Pablo, Steve, and there's always a fifth person. I can't remember who it is off the top of my head. Those are dev streams? Okay. Yeah, prime time is Zach and Taylor, right? Or they usually cycle people out. But prime time is always Zach, right? Usually Zach, at least. I think maybe always Zach. Okay, dev streams. Like, something as simple as, like the best way I can describe it is when they do their dev streams, Steve, the CEO of the company, is chilling there with everyone else, talking to the Twitch chat, you know, goofing around with everyone else. Like, it feels like he's like, I don't even know how to explain it. It feels like he's like, it feels like he's just like a fan of the game in the best way possible. Like, it doesn't feel like he's the CEO. In the best way possible. Like, it doesn't feel corporate at all. Like, usually when you see CEOs and C-suite and C-execs and stuff like that, they feel very, like, corporate, you know? And he's just, like, he's up there, like, wearing a jacket, chilling, goofing around with them, and it's just, like, it's just got this charm to it. And you contrast that with something like, and again, I'm not throwing shade at anyone, I cannot make that clear enough, but, I don't know if Bungie's CEO has ever been on, like, a dev stream or a showcase or anything like that, but if he has, I've never seen him. And it kind of, like... And I'm not saying this is his intention, but it feels like, in my subjective opinion, right? I cannot emphasize that enough. Like, it just feels to me like he doesn't, like... It feels to me like the C-suite of Bungie, like, isn't really interested in talking to us, talking to the players. And it's just, it's like... It feels like everyone at Digital Extremes is kind of on, like, the same level. I don't know if what I'm saying is making any sense at all. It's kind of hard to, like, put my thoughts into words on this topic, but it's like... Anyone who has played Warframe and played Destiny, like, knows exactly what I mean. And, like, the companies are structured in a different manner, right? So it's like, I'm not saying one of these is objectively good and one of these is objectively bad, but, like, just as a player... When I watch a Warframe dev stream and I see the CEO of the company sitting there having just as much fun talking about Warframe, having just as, you know, with just as much excitement, it makes me feel like way more connected to the company, right? One group believes in the mission of the game, the other is more like a business. I can see that. Bungie is organized like any mid to large size corporate organization. DE is organized like a startup. Yeah. There's a charm. And again, like, Bungie does a really good job of communicating with the... I think they've gotten better and better, in fact, as time has gone on. Like, Bungie's, like, reveal streams have gotten really, really good. I think, Dylan, DMG, does a really, really solid job. I think Andy does an incredible job. Mitch does an incredible job on the social side of things. Like, there's a lot of people at Bungie that care a lot. But it kind of... It feels a little bit like their company culture is a little bit more, like, red tapey when it comes to... the freedoms of interacting with the community. And as a result, it feels like Bungie as a company carries themselves in a much more professional manner. Whereas DE carries themselves much more in like a we're friends manner. Like when I watch Bungie stuff, I feel like it's like I'm the consumer and they're the company. Which again is that's not like inherently a bad thing, right? When I watch Warframe stuff though, it feels like it's so hard to describe. I think that's part of what makes like Warframe's community interaction feel so special is because it is really hard to describe. There is a like it feels very unique. They do a really good job. I think they're, yeah. I don't know. What else? What are the other things? Warframe versus Destiny. Who would win in a fight, a Guardian or a Tenno? What happens if, like, lore-wise, what happens if you, kill a Warframe? What happens? How many hours do you have in both games? I have, like, 7,000 hours in Destiny 2 and, like, 700 hours in Warframe. Which, then it might sound like I shouldn't be talking about Warframe at all, but I promise I've done everything there is to do in Warframe. The only reason that I have 7,000 hours in Destiny and 700 hours in Warframe is because I started playing Warframe 5 months ago, and 6 months ago, and I started playing Destiny 2 7 years ago. LSR, thank you so much for the gifted sub. LFG kicked me and said you need a mic for a raid. That's... I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that's very reasonable. You should have a microphone for a raid. That's not unreasonable. You can get a mic on Amazon for like 20 bucks. LSR, thank you so much for the gifted sub. Okay, so sorry, like I was saying. So like, okay, let's say my Guardian is fighting Gauss Prime. And obviously, my Tenno controlling Gauss Prime is in his orbiter, controlling it through transference. Let's say my Guardian, let's say I T-crash Gauss Prime. And shatter him into 8 billion pieces. Can my Tenno just, like, snap his fingers and respawn Gauss Prime? Like, is it like... Or does he have to go out and recraft it? The Warframe is just gonna come back? Okay. So it's like... It's not like I can just T-crash... It's not like I T-crash Gauss Prime, and then the Tenno comes back in Excalibur, because he can't use Gauss Prime anymore. And then... I T-crash Excalibur, and then he comes back in Mag, and then I T-crash Mag, and then he comes back. It's just like, I T-crash Gauss Prime, boom, insta back. Ta-da. Or is there like a... Or does... Like, do I, as the Tenno, have to be like, oh, he just shattered my Gauss Prime into 1 million pieces. I have to go and grind out the blueprints for him again. And recraft it if I want another, if I want to use Gauss again. Like, what's the... Because... If that's the case, it's an interesting battle, because the question then basically becomes, can your Guardian smoke all 60 of a Tenno's frames, and then the Tenno just can't come after him with any more frames, before the Tenno can kill the Guardian and then crush the Ghost? Or is it like... Because if you guys are telling me, like, Tenno can just perma-respawn, then... I think... I feel like it's low-key just kind of like a... I feel like it's low-key just like a tie, no? Because they can both just perma-respawn. So it's basically like you're just like two permanently respawning things killing each other and then permanently respawning. Like, I don't think either of them, like, ultimately The most interesting question, actually, in my opinion, like the question that you can actually answer is who kills who, is not who kills who for good, a Tenno or, versus a Guardian or Guardian versus Tenno. The interesting question is exhibition match, Guardian versus a Tenno's Warframe of choice, 1 life. If the Tenno kills the Guardian and makes their ghost pop up, Tenno wins. If the Guardian takes out the frame, Guardian wins. To me, that's the one you can actually answer. Can't really answer like who wins Guardian versus Tenno because like they're both just like kind of perma invincible. The tough part about that is I feel like across the suite of all Guardian abilities, you can counter anything that a Warframe can bring to the table if you know what the Warframe is bringing. But the vice versa is also true. Like, I think a Tenno, by selecting the correct Warframe, can counter literally anything a Guardian picks if they know what the Guardian is picking. So it's kind of... It almost kind of works out like a Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel, and it's like... It's just kind of like, which one did you bring? Like, did I bring a deck to counter your deck, or did you bring a deck to counter mine? Because, like... You go like... That's tough. I don't know. My honest answer is I genuinely don't know. I think that's kind of cool, though. That both Guardians and Tenno / Warframes are so powerful that it really is difficult to say who would win in a fight. Not just because of raw strength, but also because of the complexity of their respective lores. I don't know who would win. I feel like you can genuinely make arguments for both. And I think that's really cool. Ultimately, though, like, in a broader sense, like in a video game sense, Warframe versus Destiny, Destiny versus Warframe. I never wanted to make a video about this on my main channel, because video game tribalism is like a very real thing, and it's super weird. And I hate this idea where it's like, if you're a Destiny main, then you have to like pretend like Warframe sucks. And if you're, well, that doesn't really happen, to be honest, but something I did notice when I was playing a lot of Warframe is a lot of people who play Warframe like are very like passionate about the idea that like Warframe is objectively better than Destiny. And I really don't like the idea. I don't like the whole like video game tribalism thing. I really hate the whole, like, oh, my game is better than your game. I think at the end of the day, if you want to compare Warframe to Destiny, my conclusion is they are both exceptional games that are actually very different. They have some similarities, some similar systems, and Destiny does some of those systems better than Warframe, and Warframe does some of those systems better than Destiny. But ultimately, they are both incredible games that offer very unique lore, very unique playstyles, very unique grind systems, very unique everything. And I think if you have the time, I think you cannot go wrong playing both of them. I do not think you can go wrong playing both of them. They're both really good games. If you have the time, play both. Again, though, these are completely 100,000% subjective opinions. You might feel differently, and that's completely okay. At the end of the day, as always, with all these conversations, I am just yapping.